Today we'll be looking at preventing a pawn from queening with check. In this position we have a black pawn on a6 and it's threatening to promote. For example, after king f7, a5, it doesn't look like the white king will be able to catch up because it's away from the square, but we do have a double threat that we can create, which is by promoting this pawn, which is one threat, and by trying to catch up to the other one, that's another threat, we can gain time. So double threats not only exist in the middle game in the appearance of forks, but also in the end game. So this is a fork and black has to choose his poison. So after king f7, we'll be able to get closer to promoting this pawn. And black can't just push the pawn because after a5, e4, a4, e5, a3, e6, it's check, and he wants to get out of the way. And he doesn't want to play king c8 because of check, or king d8 because then e7 check. So he wants to get away from the e file. And king d6 or king c7 work, but not king c6 because of check by the queen. So he has to stop this pawn. It's the threat, and also by coming closer to this pawn, he solves the double threat problem of white trying to promote his pawn and white trying to catch up to the black pawn by creating a barrier. So white will have to take a longer way. King f6, and this also resumes the threat of promotion. So after a5, it's the same thing as before. So instead black plays king to d5, and now we can't allow this barrier, this blockade to occur, so we'll play king f5. And now black doesn't play king d4 because of e4, and actually this loses after king d4 because both queens come on at the same time, but white's queen comes on first, and then white plays queen to h8, and that would skewer the black king and the black queen. For example, a5, e4, we'll play king d4, e4, a5, e5, a4, e6, a3, e7, a2, and this is where the skewer trick comes in. So after the pawn's queen on e8 and a1, white plays queen h8, and there's the skewer. So back to the position after king f5, so black plays a5, and now we play e4 check. So black doesn't want to stay on the e file because he will be checked by the pawn, so he has to get out of the way, and he'll play either king c5 or king c6, but after king c5, the pawn just walks on, and king c6 happens to be a better line. So for example, after king c5, e5, and king c6, now I'm just up a tempo. It's one more tempo in the main line, so black is just worse there. And if they try to promote, then for example after a4, then white just simply pushes onto, well actually white wouldn't play e6 because of king d6, king f6, a3. Oh, okay, that still works because he's one tempo ahead. So that's the important part, that after king c5, e5, king c6, white can get away with playing king f6 because he's going to queen first. So instead black will play king c6, and that allows black to get closer to the pawn and the queening square at the very end. And this also threatens a blockade. So we can deal with that by keeping on with our double threat by playing e5. Now if king d7, we're in the square of the pawn, so we're able to get into the square by going to king e4, and then we just head on to a1 and b1, and we will just go back and forth here. So black can't play king d7, he has to play a4, and now we're not in the square anymore, so we have to continue with our promotion. And we can't just play e6 right away because of king. Let's see. Let's figure out why white can't just play. Let's see. So e6, a3, e7, and e6 is fine here because after king d6, then king f6, a3, e7, a2, and the pawn gets the queen. So instead, a3. And now white can't play king f6 because of a2, e7, and then we get to, black gets the queen with check. So white prevents that from happening by playing king g6 and getting away from this diagonal. And after a2, then e7, and just like we've seen in the ready puzzle, king c7, king f7, and the pawns get the queen at the same time, so we avoid the diagonal, and that's the idea we'll be using. Also, it's important to note that after a3, white can't just play e7 because black gets the blockade, king d7, king f6, and then white loses. So as long as you prevent any blockades and you get out of the queening diagonal, you should be fine. In this position, we have a pawn that we're threatening to promote, but also on the e-file, but black also has his pawn that he's threatening to promote. And just by looking at the situation, we can see that if we try to promote our pawn straight away, then it wouldn't work because black gets the queen first and we'll be looking at a check when our pawn is on e7. So the second thing we must do is we must try to stop this pawn from promoting, just like we tried to do in the first puzzle, because the main idea of just promoting our pawn doesn't work, so we have to stop that other pawn. And luckily we're in the square. By playing king f5, we'll be closer to the pawn and setting up a blockade. Black doesn't want this blockade to happen. For example, after b4, then we just play king e4, and we'll be able to get our blockade after king c5, king d3, and it's okay. So, and black could try also king a5, but it doesn't work. After king d3, king to a4, king c2, and black doesn't have control of this square, so we'll be able to push our pawn and then either set up a blockade, a barrier, or we'll just capture the pawn. So he has to play king c5, and now king e4 fails to king c4, and this pawn gets to promote. For example, after king c4, king e3, and then king c3, and then there's a barrier here, and there's no way that white can get to the pawn. So after king c5, we still can't promote our pawn because of the queening square on b1, where it attacks the white king with check. So we have to get out of this diagonal by playing king f4. And the good thing about it is that it also allows our threat to continue for promoting a pawn. For example, after king c4, now we can just play e4, and then b4, e5, b3, a6, b2, e7, and there's no check anymore after b1 queening, and then we just queen. So Black doesn't want that to happen, and he has to try to play king c4 now. But then we just we're gonna push our pawn. And so the last thing that black could try to do is to play b4, and we're still in the square, but after e4 we won't be able to queen on time. He's one rank ahead. We have to stop this pawn by playing king e3. And now if king c4, king d2, king b3, then our pawns are going to be able to promote at the same time, because it's our move, and we have 5 moves to promotion, and he has 1, 2, 3, 4. It's our move, so that means that we'll be able to so black gets to promote first, but we'll be able to get our queen on. So after e4, now black has 4 moves to promotion, and we have 4 moves to promotion. So we will queen second, but at the same time, and without any check. So after king a2, e5, b3, e6, b2, e7, queen, and queen. In the last puzzle, we have a dilemma because black is going to try to capture this pawn, or he could actually even stronger try to capture this pawn by going g2 and f2. So if we try to go and just play king f5, then we are in trouble because this pawn's going to queen with check. For example, king f5, king g2, h4, king takes f2, h5, king g2, or actually king e2, but it doesn't really matter. h6, f2, h7, and black queens with check. So let's see that in action. King f5, king g2, h4, king takes f2, h5, king e2, h6, f2, h7, and that's bad. And after king g6, because as I talked about, you can still draw with a rook pawn, but here it doesn't work because we get control of this diagonal. After queen a1, and white can't play the drawing move king g7 because it's illegal. So that wouldn't work for white. And king e5 doesn't work because of the funny skewer trick at the very end with queen a1. For example, after king g2, h4, king f2, h5, king e2, h6, f2, h7, queen f1, queen h8, and then queen a1 check, skewering the white queen and the black and the white king and winning. So the only move is king d5, getting us closer to this pawn, and at the same time allowing any queening checks to disappear. So there's no threat of black queening anymore. So after king takes h2 actually loses because of the Zugzwang position, king e4 attacking this pawn, so black has to protect it with king g2, but now king e3. And like I talked about in the king is a sword and a shield, black is in the perfect position. He is a shield to this pawn and he's a sword to the white pawn. But black doesn't have any other moves to make. If he had a pawn on a2, or actually a7, then he could play a5 or even a6, and then the white king has to move, and then it would take, black king would take the white pawn on f2. But as it is, it doesn't work. So he can't take the h pawn, he has to play king g2. And now after h4, king takes f2, h5, king e2, h6, f2, h7, queen, f1, queen h8, and there's no skewer trick. So that's the video on preventing a pawn from queening with check. Just move out of the way. First, you gotta try to catch the pawn, because if you try to promote your own pawn in the pawn race, then he will queen with check. So the threat is to be met. You have to stop that pawn, and in doing so, you will be able to queen yourself, and the game will be saved. So thanks for watching. If you liked the video, make sure to give it a like, and feel free to donate on PayPal. The link is in the description, and I'll see you in the next video, where we will learn how to deal with queens on the board, where both sides queen but only one side wins.